Hello and welcome to the Clear Crypto podcast, brought to you by Starkware and Cointelegraph. We're getting rid of the jargon, we're getting rid of the hype, and we are bringing you straight talk on what crypto and blockchain do today, on what they're going to do tomorrow. Clear and crypto, if those little words sound like a contradiction in terms, you are in the right place. Maybe you're getting started in this world, we will be the ones to get you up to speed. And if you're an OG, if you already live and breathe this stuff, don't go anywhere. This is for you too. And I'll tell you why. A major problem in crypto is that we're just not good at communicating to the outside world what it's all about without frying people's brains. Well, here that's exactly what we do. And if you stick around, you're going to be better at doing this. I'm Nathan, a journalist who's fallen into blockchain. In the last episode, we talked about one of crypto's big challenges, namely giving people crypto products that are as easy, straightforward, intuitive to use as the kind of platforms that we used to outside of the blockchain world, but built on blockchain and without any compromise to blockchain values. Today, we'll be talking specifically about payments and how we can make blockchain a really useful platform for day-to-day payments. We're going to be talking to a pioneer of blockchain-based payments, Stefana Van Cooley. She is a co-founder of Pulsar Money. And what Stefana is doing that's so interesting is she's kind of turning things on their head. She's surprising us all and saying, actually, paying on blockchain doesn't need to be more complex. It can actually be easier and can even be fun, so she says. We're going to ask her all about that. But firstly, let's loop in fellow journalist Gareth Jenkinson, managing editor of Cointelegraph, who goes on these adventures with me. Gareth, how are you doing?
Hi, Nathan. I'm great, and you? It's fantastic to be back for another episode.
So, Gareth, you're on the front lines of crypto media, and you have this great insight into what people are doing and what they aren't doing yet. Are people yet using crypto widely for payments?
I wish that I could say yes, but that would probably not be a true reflection of the state of affairs. I think a lot of people are using MasterCard and Visa card services that are linked to cryptocurrency exchanges and certain service providers in the industry. But I think that we're still a little way off from a reality where people can just very easily tap with a mobile app that is a native crypto wallet and pay for everyday goods and services, the coffee you drink in the morning, the groceries you buy at the grocery store, or the beer that you buy at the end of a very long day.
Or in the middle of a stressful day at home with children, Gareth, right?
Yeah, 100%. Twin life, I need that.
So I think it's fair to say, and you tell me if I'm wrong, that one of the big hurdles that's getting in the way of people using crypto widely for payments is convenience. I think people imagine or believe, or there's truth to this, that paying in the regular way is simple and straightforward, whereas paying with crypto is going to be a hassle, is going to be a stress, is going to be difficult, is going to be less intuitive. Is that fair to say?
I think it's definitely fair to say that there's many more complexities that are added to that, but I even just look at how long it took people to begin using tap services with, conventional cards and mobile devices. People that are of an older generation or just not so technologically inclined have a lot of fears and uncertainties when it comes into leaning into these technological innovations. And I even think back to when I was a bit reluctant to use a tap and go service, and now I can't even imagine life where I wasn't just tapping my mobile phone at every service point that I want to check out at.
And that's why I'm so excited that we're going to be speaking today to someone who maybe we'll look back on in a year or two and say, that's Stefana that we spoke to. She was pioneering that technology, that way of paying that we're all using today. So let's meet Stefana. Stefana, you're a co-founder of Pulsar Money, this really interesting payments platform that's actually taking advantage of big advances in blockchain technology, one of the most notable being the existence of mass scale today to ensure that blockchain can serve loads of different people all at the same time. One of the platforms that you use to guarantee that for your users is Starknet, the platform that started life over here at Starkware, where I work. And what's fascinating here is that if you use Pulsar Money, not only can payments via blockchain be just as easy as regular payments, but they can actually be even easier. For example, you can stay in your Twitter account, in your X account, type on your keyboard, and pay someone direct from X. It's a really cute, really interesting function. Tell us about that search for good user experience within the world of blockchain payments.
Sure. I'm super excited about this chat, particularly because it's one of the industries within crypto that we are super excited about, that we want to shape for the upcoming future. Of course, if we're looking at the whole industry as it is right now, it's still an emerging one. It's still developing. But what we're trying to do with Pulsar and what we've envisioned from the beginning is to run this type of this future payments narrative within crypto. And Nathan, you're mentioning one of the, let's say, just one of the features and the modules that are within Pulsar that are super convenient. I agree with you. We're still not there yet, whereas the crypto payments industry is super convenient and easy for the users. Now, what you can do with this social payments module, you can actually send funds directly on Twitter. So I can just tag your Twitter handle and I can directly send you funds through it. This is a cool use case to showcase people that, yes, with crypto payments, you can actually have super seamless, easy, and convenient payments. And it can actually be also super fun because we all know within the crypto space, the whole community that is here for perhaps something else than payments, which is quite boring, right? So we said, okay, why not we think of a way on how we can onboard the users, make them do payments, in a fun way. And this was the strategy for us from the beginning.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Gareth, when I hear something like this, I'm listening to Stefana say, okay, you can stay within Twitter, carry on writing in Twitter. You can pay someone from inside Twitter in crypto. Everybody can see it. So that can be fun. That can have all sorts of significance. But I'm not actually hearing just that. I'm hearing, okay, maybe it will be this Twitter solution that takes off or doesn't take off. But the important thing is here that a company has come along, used really smart thinking, and found a way of making it easier and more intuitive. It might be that way that takes off. It might be that this same company will come and do something else afterwards. But the point here is that we're getting closer and closer to doing things in a convenient way. It's kind of those small steps towards easier use of crypto. Is that kind of the way that you frame it?
Yeah, I think it's a very important part of why the industry is here. If you look back at Bitcoin in particular, I mean, one of the core characteristics of money is being a medium of exchange. And if we're not using cryptocurrencies as a medium of exchange, then it's not solving one of the core characteristics that makes money money, right? So for me, I've always thought that this is one of the key points that any sort of cryptocurrency needs to serve. I mean, there are different tokens that serve different use cases, of course. But at the end of the day, a large part of why this industry came to be was to solve payments, to remove third parties and give people some control and sovereignty of their money. And yes, I still believe that there is a long way to go. And I'm really keen to check Pulsar out. To be honest, it's something that's new on my radar. And I'm always happy to look and explore new innovations that are trying to solve a very important thing, but also do it in a way that is intuitive and entertaining because, as Stefana rightly says, a lot of our industry is driven by communities and engagement, and you need to think of innovative ways to get people involved in order to use your product or service and kind of understand the raison d'etre for why you've created it in the first place.
As we're discovering through these episodes, Gareth, you are, and you won't mind me saying this, demanding. I'm not talking about in a restaurant or something like that, but you are demanding in terms of what you want from crypto because you want all the different pieces. You want it to be self-custodial. That's something that we talked about in the last episode. Catch that episode if you haven't yet, meaning no middleman. You're fully in charge of your own funds. And you want it to have this easy user experience to be kind of convenient and to be fun and to be many other things as well. So I think this is a great conversation to be having, especially after the last episode on self-custody. So let's jump straight back in with Stefana. Stefana, tell us, in your view, if someone is sitting listening to this and going, okay, very nice, I'm listening to someone who's talking about digital payments. I already have PayPal, I already have Venmo, there's loads of other payment solutions where I can instantly send people payments. What do you say to them? Because we know sitting here, crypto payments are not the same, but can you really hammer it home how you see it as bringing something new to the table?
Sure. That's actually a really good question to start with when we're thinking about payments, right? Because I think we need to zoom out a bit towards the whole industry, the whole Web3 industry. And this has been the primitives of crypto, right? When crypto began with embedded in the promises with low money fees and borderless payments, right? But now to answer specifically, I could think of tens of reasons. Why do we want payments? The question here is, how do we convince people that they want payments in crypto? Now, when it comes to the reasons, of course, there's permissionless transfers. It's super fast, cheap. You can have easy cross-border transfers, no middleman, no bank, no government, which is, of course, just to name a few. So it all goes back towards how do we make people understand that crypto is more about fundamentals than actually just having fun. But how do we also convince people to use payments? I think this is one of the ways we could do that. You can combine those two. You can have fun while doing payments. And this is a way in which you onboard communities, you grow a community, offering them this sort of tools, social payments, all this gamification that you can have fun while using quick payments, and then onboarding the people into the real payment use cases.
Got it. And Pulsar Money, what do you see Pulsar as bringing to the table within all of this?
Well, this has been our whole strategy from the beginning, to grow the community, to offer them this sort of modules that you can have fun with. See the social payments, you can send tokens on Twitter and funds on Twitter. They have fun within your ecosystem, but then you educate them on payments. You manage to transition them towards actually using, even without them knowing this. But then you have this educational curve for your community.
Gareth, we've spoken a lot about crypto as being there to store value for some people. You know, you went to that amazing vault where a lot of crypto is looked after, and we need to speak about that in one of these episodes. But tell me, in your view, what do you see as the compelling argument for why we all need crypto as a payment mechanism as well?
For me, it really just comes down to the ownership of money and the removal of a third party. And I think there are numerous crypto payment service providers that are doing this pretty well already. And as much as I said what I said earlier in the podcast, that perhaps we're not at the final hurdle yet, there are many people that have built great services, right? But at the end of the day, cryptocurrency payments are important because you have control of your money, you have control of your keys, you don't have to ask permission to use or send that money, and no one can stop you from doing it if it's a truly decentralized network or service that is facilitating the transfer of value. And that for me is why crypto is really important. It comes down to these ideals of freedom and censorship resistance. And I would love to see more crypto payments really solving that, at the same time being really easy to use and intuitive, because at the end of the day, you have to convince people why they should stop using their banking app or just tapping their MasterCard and instead use whatever cryptocurrency that they like to hold in their wallets, whether that's, you know, some sort of self-custodial Bitcoin wallet, an Ethereum wallet, a Solana wallet, whether you're using Pulsar Money to make some payments on X or something like that, or just tap your card. People need to be able to spend their money how they want to and when they see fit without asking for permission.
And we do live in a world that can be quite turbulent. I mean, in all of our lifetimes, we've seen turbulence in many other parts of the world. It's not so difficult to conceive that, you know, people are living a regular, stable kind of life one day, and then they are plucked up by circumstances, put down somewhere else in the world. Governments close banks as they did in Cyprus in 2013. Gareth, we've spoken about that before. These things do happen. So it's not a stretch to assume that if such things happen, you want access to your money in order to make payments straight away. Is that something that plays into the mindset of a lot of your readers?
Yeah, it definitely is. At the end of the day, people look at debanking or the closure of banks or censorship as a big reason why they hold and use Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. They want to be in ultimate control of their money. And the truth is, if you have your money at a bank, you might be in trouble if they're in trouble. And for me, the easiest example of this was when SVB Bank had banking issues in the United States. They went bankrupt. Circle, which is the issuer of USDC, had some of its reserves tied up in SVB Bank. I stand to be corrected. I think it was around $3 billion. But $3 billion of the US dollars that were underpinning USDC tokens in circulation were now not on the table anymore. And that's a huge problem for one of the biggest stablecoin issuers in the industry. And if that's not a great example of why you need to have self-custody of your money, whether it's Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency, I don't know what is. You know, if a bank can fail or a government can stop you from spending your money, do you really have control of that money? I don't think so.
I'm going to kick in here as the kind of anti-jargon police, say, Gareth, and get you to break that down in terms of what you mean about the stable coins for those who aren't familiar.
Yes, yeah. So a stablecoin, very simply put, is a cryptocurrency token that is backed by some sort of real world asset. When we're talking about USDC, that's a US dollar backed stablecoin. So essentially, you need to deposit real US dollars with Circle, and then they will issue USDC tokens, which are backed to the dollars that you've put in the bank.
Stefana, I think one of the pieces about Pulsar Money that it took me a while to understand and to really grasp is what you gain from putting together the social element and the crypto element. And we spoke earlier, and one of the things that you spoke to me about was that visibility of when crypto has been transferred. And there may be scenarios where you want everybody to know that, and that will be proved to everybody really easily. So one example is, I don't know about you guys, but I'm constantly getting messages on social media about a great giveaway. You know, someone's giving away $100,000 prize, and you sit there suspicious, assuming, hey, does that money ever really get given away to a real person? And Stefana, what you said is that in such a scenario, a system like Pulsar Money could make a difference. Can you explain how that would actually work?
Sure. So, of course, behind the whole social media payments type of thing, it's not just the fun part, but also like a tangible use case behind it, because we know the hurdles that are like linked to the giveaway or organizing the giveaway, distribution of prizes and so on. Now with the social pay, you can actually do this directly on Twitter in a super transparent way. It's super visible for everyone. You could check it on chain, where the funds, like where the prize is like really distributed. There's no need to ask for wallets to transfer this manually. Everything is on chain, and then everything is transparent on Twitter, on social media. So this has been one of the really cool use cases for the social pay, where you can just, embed it into like the whole organization of a giveaway, transferring the funds and having like being like super transparent towards your community. It creates this sense of, I trust you as a startup doing this, or as a KOL, as an influencer, because I know everything is going to be handled transparently.
Can I jump in there as well? Obviously, Cointelegraph has the Chain Reaction X show. And in our first week, we did this, right? We had like a 250 USDC giveaway, and we needed to figure out who won the money and how to get it to them. And I find it fantastic that I'm now hearing about this, because definitely I'm going to DM you after this podcast is done and chat about the service, because I think it is something that social media really needs. It's probably the one thing that's missing in that ecosystem is the ability to make payments. And it's worth noting that Facebook tried to do this with the Libra project, and regulators around the world shut them down. because they realized such a big centralized entity with the social network effects of 1 billion plus users could have been very disruptive to global payments. So we have to go smaller and start with solutions like this, but I think it's amazing that you're doing that.
Yeah, this is one of the things that I felt strongly experiencing the world of crypto, which is what you need to look out for is really interesting solutions. It might not be the solution that's going to change the world, but if you can do something really interesting, it's pointing you to all of those possibilities of, hey, what else can we do with this? So when you take the tiny, tiny example that's not going to change the world of you're doing a giveaway. Okay, what's happening when you do a giveaway? What do I want to know as someone who's taking the time to enter a giveaway? I want to know that if I put my name forward and I'm being told that it's a random selection, that it's not actually going to be Gareth choosing his best friend who he used to play rugby with or whatever. I want to know that I have an equal chance of winning. And that's something that can be verified using blockchain. So that's one tiny example of how we are taking steps forward. And talking to Stefana, I'm pretty sure that we're going to carry on taking with these small steps and actually go to somewhere that's pretty impressive and pretty exciting. Gareth, thinking about this discussion, we hear a lot about banking, the unbanked and all of this. Is this just a cliche, or do discussions like this kind of give a new perspective on that?
Yeah, I don't think it's a cliche. I think it's a very important topic that needs to be discussed. The funny thing is the audience that we're probably speaking to are people that this isn't relevant to. But if you look at where I come from, I'm from South Africa. I grew up in different African countries, and there being unbanked is a huge problem, right? And you have to remember that being unbanked is the result of many different factors: not having an ID, not having proof of residence or an actual home because people don't even have the title deeds to the places that they stay. How do you allow these people to take ownership of their money, or at least receive funds in some way, shape or form that's not physical money? It's a very, very big problem in developing countries. And the crypto audience or crypto natives are people that already have money, So I think sometimes that's a little bit lost on this industry, but it's arguably one of the most important parts of the industry is allow people to set up a wallet and receive money without a centralized authority or anything else controlling that, right? You can do it with a phone that's not a smartphone, just a very simple mobile phone and an SMS service. You can get people onto the Bitcoin network and send them some sats, So I think that for me is one of the most important things to understand, that it's not relevant for everyone, but it's a very important part of what the cryptocurrency industry will do at some stage, whether that's with stable coins or services like Pulsar Money. It is very important, and it's definitely not cliche, although it is a little bit lost on our audience.
Yeah, I think you're right there. And, I had fascinating discussions when Starkware decided to invest in Africa and now has someone who's actually working on that as a project. The conversations I had with him were fascinating because, essentially he's saying, look, a lot of the people who are talking crypto today love it as an ideal, but don't actually experience that day-to-day need for it. And I think we may all be very surprised in the sense that the major breakthroughs in crypto may come in countries and audiences where a lot of us don't expect it because there is a real day-to-day need there. And I feel, Gareth, that this discussion today has helped us get a little bit deeper into this. And I think this is a topic we need to come back to. All that remains for us to do today is to discuss a fantastic news story with Gareth. But before we do that, I just want to say thank you to Stefana from Pulsar Money for joining us. Stefana, it's been an absolutely fascinating discussion, and we hope to speak to you again very soon.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm super excited about the conversation.
Gareth, let's turn our attention to some of the news coming out at the moment. There was a great story that I know you liked about a regular person mining Bitcoin. Explain the significance of this story.
Yeah, so for those not familiar with the story, 2 times in the past 6 weeks, a solo Bitcoin miner has managed to solve a block. Now,
do you want to define the term for those who don't follow? Maybe give a bit of background that a lot of the Bitcoin are mined by huge organizations, right?
Yes, perfect. So in layman's terms, the Bitcoin network is processed by a group of miners. Now, these are essentially individuals or organizations running a load of very specific hardwares. Imagine, processors and computers, and they are processing all these transactions. Now, most miners operate in pools, so they combine all their hashing power, which is the processing power, and then they share the rewards when they solve a block. I'm not going to get too much into the technical details, but usually...
But it's essentially like a lottery pool when people club together to make a collective. Yeah.
Yes, exactly that. So for the most part, the majority of the mining network is made up of these pools, but there are people that choose to mine as individuals. Now, you have a tiny amount of processing power compared to the combined processing power of some of these pools, but there's a very small chance, just like buying a lottery ticket, that you do solve the hashing algorithm for the next Bitcoin block. And if you do, you get the Coinbase transaction or the block reward. And 2 times in the last month, that's happened. Now, I stand to be corrected, but I think the odds of this are like 1,000,000 to 1. So it doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it's truly fantastic. And one specific user using a BitAxe, which is a very, very small Bitcoin miner, managed to solve a block. And they essentially walked away with 3.125 Bitcoin, which is the current block reward. And you can do the math. That's about $300,000 for a very small amount of electricity. If you're running a BitAxe at home, I think you'll probably only spend $50 to $60 worth of electricity in a year. And imagine that's the amount that you're spending on a Bitcoin lottery ticket, as it were. And you walk away with $300,000. It's amazing. And it's just one of those beautiful things about the incentive of being a Bitcoin miner, that there is every chance that you could be the lucky person that solves the next block. So really one of my favorite stories that I've read in the past 6 weeks on our website.
Yeah, so do look for that article on Cointelegraph, a great story, and just really reminds everyone that while it doesn't happen often, that is the ethos of Bitcoin, that everyone can get involved, everyone can be part of it. And that's a great note to end today's episode on. It's been absolutely fascinating. It was great talking to Stefana, and to all of our listeners, to all of our viewers, thank you so much for joining us. We love doing this. We love recording these episodes. Today's discussions really made me think, and I hope they made you think too. Wherever you're following this podcast, whether you're walking the dog, driving in the car, wherever you're joining us from, thank you so much for joining us here on the Clear Crypto podcast. This is a podcast proudly brought to you by Starkware and Cointelegraph, and edited and produced by our wonderful friends over at Tonal Media. If you're joining the show here and haven't heard the previous episodes, there's some great stuff there. I strongly recommend you take a listen to what we've produced until now. I also strongly recommend that you recommend this content to your friends and family, because if it's interesting, why keep it to yourselves? Reminder that you can catch Gareth every single day on the Twitter show called Chain Reaction, and also a reminder to subscribe to these podcasts so that you don't miss one. We've got some really great stuff planned next time. I hope you'll join us. Until then, goodbye and thanks from everyone on the Clear Crypto podcast.